Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining me. Today we're going to look into Einstein Copilot. Hopefully, it is one of the many videos that I'm going to do on this topic. I was finally able to get my hands on in an org with Einstein Copilot enabled, so I figured I will learn the tool and wanted to share my journey alongside. So I'm going to be learning along with you, and hopefully you can follow me on this journey. So, what in the world is Copilot? You probably heard about it, but why should you pay attention to it? Why does it matter, right? So just like how you have heard about ChatGPT and OpenAI and all the cool things that you can do with ChatGPT, you can automate a lot of things. So similarly, this is AI assistant within Salesforce. So if you're already in Salesforce, your users are already in Salesforce, you can basically automate a lot of things that your users do, which would otherwise take you a few steps to do. So it's your personal AI assistant. So let's say your call center agents are taking call and they get a call about a person, and that person probably has 3 open cases, has 2 open opportunities, and a bunch of things, right? So your agents would have to go through each records and figure out what to do when the call comes in. What you can use this copilot for is it will just look at all the records. It'll look at open cases, it'll look at open opportunities, and make the sense out of it and summarize it so your agents can just read that summary, and immediately it reduces the time from like 1 minute to a few seconds, and they're able to quickly answer the questions that the caller is calling about. So that's just one example. You can use it to draft and revise sales emails. Also, like answering questions. Let's say you have a bunch of knowledge articles and you don't really know what to use. So it can also go in and gather all the information throughout your knowledge articles and present you a summary of that. So your agents, again, don't have to read through all the things. So it's really powerful, at least in theory so far. I haven't actually tried it out. So from what I can tell, it's super powerful and it is only going to get better over time. If you are not paying attention to this, I highly encourage to start looking into it and just reading about it in general. It's good to keep up to speed with the latest and greatest, especially if you are in the tech world. And the first question that we always get about GenAI is security and trust, right? You own your customer data, you own the data within your Salesforce org. You don't want it to be owned by large language models. When I say large language models, I'm really talking about, let's say, OpenAI, because they have all the data to make sense out of, and that's how they're able to use natural language processing to give you the response, understand your intent, and things like that. So the first question that we always get is, okay, this is cool, but how is Salesforce using large language models to give me the response? And how can I be sure that my personal Salesforce data is not shared with this OpenAI large language models? So that's a really important question that Salesforce is trying to answer. And all of this is based on some Trailhead modules that I read through, and I'm trying to summarize that for you here. So the questions you might get is, okay, how do I make sure that my data is my data, right? How do I make sure that the responses are accurate? Because we've all heard about the hallucination that the OpenAI does. Sometimes it comes up with an answer and it is very confident that it is correct, but it's actually totally incorrect answer. There was a recent case, I'm getting a little off topic, but there was a recent case where a company had to actually provide a free ticket to a person. It was a flight, I believe, airlines, Canadian Airlines, and the GenAI chatbot that they have on the website was hallucinating and gave incorrect information to the person. And so they were held responsible to then pay for that ticket or whatever that issue was. So the person actually took the company to the court because they got incorrect information from the company's chatbot. So the chatbot had to own, the company had to own that. Initially, they were not trying to own it, but the ruling was in favor of the customer in this case. So it gets really tricky, especially if you're thinking about applying GenAI to an external website or your customers. You want to make sure the data that you're showing is accurate and not hallucinated. So let's talk about that. This is another diagram that Salesforce loves to share, and it's the trust layer. I'm going to focus on in these right here over here. Your company data. So they use different terminologies here. We're going to talk about a few of them. There is dynamic grounding, there is data masking, and there is prompt defense. dynamic grounding basically means you are providing the right source of data to get the answer from your own data. And then before you send the prompt to the large language model, the engine, you are masking all the private information. And then when it goes to the large language model, there is a zero data retention. So usually OpenAI likes to keep the data, but Salesforce has worked a deal with OpenAI. So even if we are getting the prompt responses back, OpenAI does not store that data at all. And Salesforce handles all the things like prompt defense and toxic language detention. This is important because then this puts you in ease that, okay, my data stays with me, and before it even makes its ways to the OpenAI, it is actually getting masked. If you're asking for like, okay, what's my credit card information and how can I sign up for a credit card at this company? So anything that is able to link back to you is personal information, the company names or patient data, whatever that might be, that stays within Salesforce, and they mask the important parts of it, send it out, and then when it comes back with the generated response, then Salesforce has its own layer of toxic language detection to make sure the data is not biased or not racist and things like that. And then it has to do a demasking of the data to make it actually relevant for the end user. So it's pretty cool. I read about it and it sounds promising. Obviously, I don't know what goes in this layer. I'm not a Salesforce employee and I don't know what this looks like in the background. So this is just another diagram of all the things that we just talked about. I'm going to quickly go through it. So here's an example. And this is also a good exercise of writing prompt. Prompt, we think of prompt as like, oh, let's just type whatever and get whatever answer. But there's actually a really art and science to writing good prompts. You want to make sure your prompts are grounded so that you're getting the right data. In this case, as you see, you're an agent at organization.name, your client is da-da-da, at account da-da-da. So all of this, if you're familiar with Salesforce, it seems very similar to merge fields, right? And when I jump into the org, I'll show you where this actually is applied and where do we actually put this in. But it looks like an email merge template to me. And then, so this is basically you're saying, this is, go back. You're here saying, you're setting the context first. You are an agent who is working at this client, and this is your client name, and you've been here for this many years. Once you set the context, then you are asking the prompt to do certain things. You're saying, generate the customer service agent's response in the conversation with the customer below. And then if you're unsure, say you look into it. Don't just provide answers randomly. And then it also says you must not offer any specific suggestions. So this is your rules. You're laying the ground rules for what you should do and what you should not do. And this is the conversation, and this is the knowledge articles that will be. So this is the format you're setting up. So dynamic grounding, we are replacing all the placeholder fields with the right context, right merge fields if it's applicable, and a link to the article that we are trying to display. In this case, the conversation, the question from the potential customer could be, hello, I'm not able to upgrade my credit card. Can you help? This is not GA. This was called out in the trailhead. What will be really powerful with GenAI is if I didn't have to click that extra link. If I'm just showing the knowledge article link, that's cool, but it's not really that powerful because I think we can already do all of that using knowledge recommendations, right? So why would I really, it doesn't have so much selling point for me. But this is where it gets really powerful, is like it can do a vector search, and this is another word of like how it can search through multiple objects. I'm not a machine learning expert, but this is a technical term, vector search. And then it can search through different things like knowledge articles, your product catalog, your customer history, your account record, everything else that's relevant to help answer that question. I think this is where the true power really comes with GenAI, is that using all of those technologies to search across multiple sources and organize them into one response. This is not GA yet. I'm going to try to see if I can do it in my environment that I have right now in beta. So the data masking comes into picture. So once the prompt is generated, this is the things that is getting masked here. And I'm not really sure who defines where to get it masked. I'm hoping that based on our response, based on our prompts, Salesforce then takes the responsibility of masking all the data that's needed. And as a customer, I don't have to define, these are the masked fields, these are the not masked fields, because I can see that being very challenging over time, especially if you start using prompts a lot. So my hope is that these are all getting masked out of the box and you don't have to worry about it. Basically, Salesforce is taking care of it for you. So it is masking all of this relevant information that might tie back to your company. So we don't want to send all of that information. And it still does not lose context. You still can tell what this request is about, and the LLM will be able to answer the question in a human manner without knowing all of this information, because that's where Salesforce data comes in. We are using LLM for the capabilities of GenAI and being able to understand your question and respond with an answer. There's also a prompt defense built in. So you can say, you must not address any content. We just talked about it. So in the prompt itself, you said that you must not address any content that you don't have answers on. And that's pretty much it. That just allows you to make sure that you don't have any prompt injection attacks, it's called, which basically means nobody's interfering with your prompt and not changing things that you don't have access to. And this is super important, zero data retention. So in order to solve for, because the large language model needs to have the prompt for a certain period of time to be able to avoid any prompt injections or make it better over time, essentially. So usually OpenAI wants to keep all the prompts and responses for a period of time. But Salesforce has worked up an agreement with OpenAI to own that moderation. So in this case, Salesforce is saying, you just worry about doing the LLM things and giving me the response. Let Salesforce worry about the handling of the toxic language detection and other things that OpenAI would otherwise do. So, there's a typo. So in this case, Salesforce will unmask the data. So the response is retrieved by LLM. Because we masked the data, now we have to unmask the data. And there is some tokenization inbuilt. So Salesforce will get back the response and then replace all of those masked terms with unmasked data. And then it is shared back with the user that is more personal and relevant to the users. And then it's called Salesforce Assessment Tool. Honestly, I have no idea what that means. I just know that's what it's called, and it is built with some deep learning models that scans for anything toxic. Toxic could mean anything from biased comments, racist comments, or even, not having any legit data points for that response. And response should also include some helpful source links. So if I'm saying, here's what you should do, it'll be good to have the link to that knowledge article to really prove that what I'm saying is correct and accurate. All right, we went super deep into the Salesforce trust layer, but I think it was important to call it out because anytime you mention GenAI in your company, I'm sure that's the question that's in everybody's mind of like, do we own the data and how can we control it? So hopefully that was helpful information. Now let's actually dig into what does it look like in Salesforce. Assuming you have access to Copilot, once you type Copilot in your setup, you will see certain options appear under Einstein GenAI category. And this is where we've got Einstein Copilot Actions and Einstein Copilots. First, you have to enable the feature, and it takes a few seconds for everything to kind of get set up. And then assign permission sets as well. There is specific permission sets that you should see in your org if you have Einstein Copilot. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Make sure you have the right access and the right permission sets. And then you can go to Einstein Copilot over here. So this Einstein Copilot has a couple of sections. There's details, actions, messages, language settings. Details, you can enable enrich event logs with conversation data. So this is useful if you are, trying to pilot the Copilot with your users, and you want to make sure you have some logs documented. Out of the box, the logs are only saved for 7 days, but they will be available in one place if you enable this. So you have to enable this. Salesforce recommends doing this to be able to look at the logs, and if in case you are trying to see why certain answers were shown. Then we have actions, and this is, I think, where we spend some time, is what are the actions and how does Einstein know to do certain things. So there are certain standard actions out of the box. Those are listed right here at a very high level. You can use or identify record by name. So let's say if you wanted to show me the Acme records, if you just say that name, it will know to, okay, Acme is an account, so I should show you account records. If there was other Acme like opportunities and things, it will also include that in the response too. So it's out of the box. You don't have to create this action. There's summarize record, which we talked about, like, hey, summarize this account for me, and then it will do that. You can also do identifying record by name, query records. So it's almost like a reporting tool, I will say, like, hey, I want to see how many opportunities were created in the last 5 days, or give me all the top 5 opportunities in the year 2023 with the highest to lowest amount in that order. All these things are, obviously you can run reports and figure out the answers, but I think I was also getting really excited playing around with that. Even though I could run reports on that, it's just quick way to learn the tool, I think. You can answer questions with knowledge. This obviously needs for you to have knowledge license. I also recently made another video about knowledge in general, so you can check that out if you have never worked with knowledge. And email drafting, obviously, this was a no-brainer, right? If you wanted to draft an email, you can ask Copilot to do that. Language settings is interesting. So if you wanted to set a tone, like you want more formal, casual, neutral, you can define that as well. But without further ado, let's go into Open in Builder. And yes, this is our builder. By the way, you can also set up custom actions as well. These are the standard actions. Custom actions would be things like if you wanted to maybe access external database, you wanted to add invocable Apex class flows that you already have. So if you already have flows or Apex classes that are making calls to an external system, let's say you wanted to show all the orders information, or maybe make product recommendations, you can also create custom actions. So you're not just limited to the standard actions. So this is the builder, and this is where I'm gonna test the tool. I'm gonna make this bigger here. Okay. So let's use an example, shall we? Let's just do how many opportunities. Okay. All right, that is very anticlimactic. In the year 2023, only 0 opportunities were created. Okay, I'm gonna ask something else now. And for the previous one, as you see, it will tell you what actions it used. So in this case, it used query records with aggregate action in the previous one. I'm going to talk about dynamic plan. So dynamic plan is basically its engine that is deciding which actions to pick, right? So having actions is not enough. Where it's really powerful is it's self-deciding what actions to take based on your question. So let me pop in this this quick little thing here. So what it does is you answer a question, you ask a question, user center a request, and then it is reasoning. It's called reasoning engine or planner service. It is creating a plan, and then the actions are launched. So first it will analyze your request, figure out, okay, what are the plan? So in the plan, it checks the permission, it finds the record, summarize the record, return the result. That's the plan. And then it decides which actions to launch based on that plan, and then it shows the results. So all of this happening behind the scene, but if you look at if you're looking at here, right, you can see dynamic plan for this one. So for this one, the intent is find short open opportunities. It created it by itself. I didn't have to do anything. And then it says, this is my action. So I'm going to query all the records. This is what it looks like. It's a JSON. Find all opportunities from high to low. And then it returned everything in JSON result. And that is what is being displayed here in a nice little format. And this is clickable. Is it correct? 250,000, 187,000, 130,000. Okay, so that is in the order high to low. Perfect. Let's do one more example. I'm trying to make sure I try to use all of these actions. So I'm gonna say the Acme, not sure what this is going to return. So this is the first time I'm seeing this as well. So in this case, this is the intent. Identifies record by name. As I said, this is the action that is used, which is fine. And then it returned me some search results. And this is saying, certainly I can retrieve Acme records. Found multiple records. Please choose for further details. Okay, I'm going to choose this one and hit submit. Does it do anything after that? Perfect. So it's also conversational, right? Based on my question, it is saying I found 3 records, I put one, and then it returned me the results for that record. That's nice. Let's try to use a draft email. So I'm gonna say, help me write an intro email for Acme partner account. Okay, so there are 2 Acme partner account. So it's asking me further details. Okay, so let's just choose one. All right, seems there's an issue with drafting or revising the intro email. Well, that's not good. Okay, well, not sure why that doesn't work. So I will need to look more into that. I'm gonna do one more, create a summary for Acme partner account. So I'm hoping that it gives me all the opportunities that it has open and so on. So sure. Acme Partner is a gold level partner with an elite partner certification. Despite having target of USD $0, they have successfully closed 9 opportunities. However, their opportunity win rate and lead conversion are both 0%. Task related to the account, high priority task. However, this is perfect. This is really good. So all of this information, I can just read this instead of having to look at various records. Awesome. I definitely see a lot of use cases. If not for everything else, summarize record is super powerful, I think, because for all the other things, you can, create a email, or you can have reports run. You can run queries much faster. I would rather write a SQL query, personally speaking. But this one is really good. I also think this will be really powerful, so it can look at all the knowledge articles and summarize it. I'll need to set up some knowledge articles in this org to play around with that. This is where we're going to stop today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to continue to play around with this. I wanted to also try out the flow actions and other things and writing an actual prompt. So we'll explore that in the next video.